in the bustling heart of Chicago, where the wind whipped through the skyscrapers like an unrelenting whisper of forgotten dreams, Mike Thompson pushed his mop across the linoleum floor of Lincoln Memorial Hospital. It was well past midnight, the graveyard shift, when the world outside slowed to a hush, and the only sounds were the distant hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional beep from a monitor in the halls. Mike was 42. With calloused hands that spoke of years scrubbing away the messes of others, and eyes that held the quiet weight of a man who'd seen too much loss. His faded blue janitor's uniform hung loosely on his frame, a far cry from the tailored suits he once imagined for himself. But life had a way of rewriting scripts, and Mike's had been torn to shreds 5 years ago when his wife, Sarah, died in a car accident, leaving him alone to raise their daughter, Emily. Emily was 10 now, a bright-eyed girl with her mother's curly brown hair and a laugh that could light up the darkest room. She was the reason Mike took this job: steady hours, decent benefits, and close enough to her school that he could walk her there every morning before his shift. He didn't mind the work. There was a certain peace in the rhythm of cleaning, in making things orderly when his own life felt like chaos. But tonight, as he emptied the trash bins in the emergency wing, something felt off. The air was thicker, charged with an unspoken urgency. He heard it before he saw it. A choked gasp from behind the nurse's station. Rounding the corner, Mike froze. Dr. Elena Vasquez, one of the hospital's top cardiologists, was slumped against the wall, her hand clutching her chest. Her face was ashen, beads of sweat glistening under the harsh lights. She was alone. The night staff must have been on rounds. "Help," she wheezed, her voice barely audible. Mike's heart pounded. He wasn't supposed to get involved. The janitors cleaned, they didn't intervene. But instinct kicked in, an old reflex buried deep. Dropping his mop, he rushed to her side. "Dr. Vasquez, can you hear me?" He checked her pulse, erratic, weak. Her breathing was shallow, labored. Signs of a heart attack, or worse. Without thinking, he grabbed the defibrillator from the wall-mounted station nearby. He'd seen it used 100 times while mopping up after codes, but this was different. "Stay with me," he murmured, ripping open her blouse to expose her chest. The machine whirred to life as he attached the pads. Clear. The shock jolted her body, but no response. He started CPR, his compressions firm and rhythmic, counting under his breath. 1, 2, 3. Memories flooded back unbidden. Years ago, Mike hadn't been Mike the janitor. He'd been Michael Thompson, a rising star in medical school, specializing in emergency medicine. He'd passed every exam, saved lives in simulations that felt all too real. But after Sarah's death, killed by a drunk driver on a rainy night, he couldn't face the operating room anymore. The blood, the beeps, the finality of it all reminded him too much of the where they'd pronounced her dead. So he dropped out, buried his textbooks, and took the first job that let him disappear into anonymity. His secret skill, that medical knowledge, had been locked away like a dangerous artifact, until now. By the time the night nurse burst in, alerted by the alarm, Dr. Vasquez was stabilizing. Mike stepped back, hands trembling, as the team took over. "What happened?" the nurse demanded, eyeing him suspiciously. I just reacted," Mike stammered, wiping sweat from his brow. She was collapsing. Dr. Vasquez, gasping for air as they wheeled her away, locked eyes with him. "You saved me." The next morning, the hospital buzzed with the story. Whispers followed Mike as he clocked in for his day shift. How the janitor had performed CPR like a pro, how he'd used that without hesitation. He brushed it off, focusing on his routine, scrubbing toilets in the pediatric ward, where Emily sometimes visited after school if he was running late. But inside, turmoil brewed. What if they dug into his past? What if Emily found out her dad wasn't just a cleaner, but a man who'd run from his calling? Emily was waiting for him that afternoon in the hospital cafeteria, her backpack slung over one shoulder, munching on an apple he'd packed. "Dad, I heard something crazy. Did you really save a doctor's life last night?" Mike forced a smile, ruffling her hair. "Nah, kiddo, just helped out." Anyone would have done it. But she beamed up at him, her eyes sparkling. "You're like a superhero, Dad. Mom would be proud." Her words stung, a reminder of the life they could have had. Sarah had been his rock, the one who believed in his dreams when he doubted himself. She'd been a teacher, full of kindness, always volunteering at shelters and food banks. "The world runs on small acts of humanity," she'd say. Mike tried to live by that now, helping neighbors with groceries or fixing leaky faucets for free. Selflessness was his quiet rebellion against a world that had taken so much. As days passed, the incident faded from gossip, but Dr. Vasquez didn't forget. Recovered and back at work, she cornered Mike in the supplely closet one evening. "Mr. Thompson, we need to talk." He stiffened, clutching a bucket of cleaning supplies. "Mom, I was just doing what Anania cut the crap," she said, her voice sharp but kind. "That wasn't anyone. You knew exactly what you were doing." Pulse check. Protocol textbook perfect. "Who are you really?" Mike sighed, setting down the bucket. For the first time in years, he told someone the truth about medical school, Sarah's death, his retreat into obscurity. "I couldn't save her," he confessed, voice cracking. "So I stopped trying to save anyone." Elena listened, her expression softening. "But you did save me. And that skill, it's not something you can bury forever." "The hospital's short-staffed we could use someone like you." He shook his head. "I'm just a janitor." "For Emily's sake?" She nodded, respecting his boundaries, but planted a seed. "Think about it. Kindness like you, it's rare. Don't waste it." Life trudged on. Mike's days were a blur of mops and fatherhood, helping Emily with homework, reading her bedtime stories about brave knights and hidden treasures. She was his world. But lately, she'd been quieter. At parent-teacher conferences, her teacher mentioned she was excelling in science, dreaming of becoming a doctor like the heroes in books. Mike's heart ached. Was he holding her back by hiding his past? Then came the unexpected turn. It started with a phone call from Emily's school. "Mr. Thompson, Emily is not feeling well, fever, cough. Could you come pick her up?" He rushed over, finding her pale and listless in the nurse's office. "Daddy, my chest hurts," she whispered. Panic surged. At the hospital, tests revealed pneumonia, complicated by an underlying condition they'd missed before: asthma, perhaps triggered by the city's pollution. But as they prepped her for admission, the power flickered. A storm was brewing outside, one of those brutal Chicago tempests that knocked out grids. By evening, the hospital was on generators, but chaos ensued. Patients flooded in from accidents caused by the downpour, car crashes, slips, a building collapse downtown. The was overwhelmed, staff stretched thin. Emily was stable in pediatrics, but Mike couldn't leave her side. That's when he heard the code blue over the intercom from the Peeking out, he saw the scene. A young man, barely 20, pulled from the rubble, his leg mangled, bleeding out. Dr. Vasquez was there, barking orders, but they were short a surgeon. The on-call doctor was stuck in traffic, delayed by the storm. Mike's hands itched. He could help. But Emily, "Dad," her voice was weak from the bed. "Go, help them. Like you helped that doctor." Torn, he kissed her forehead. "I'll be right back, promise." In the he approached Helena. "What do you need?" She glanced at him, desperate. "Tourniquet, stabilize the bleed." "But we need to amputate Ifar." "Wait, you?" "No time," Mike said, rolling up his sleeves. "I was top of my class in trauma." "Let me assist." Reluctantly, she agreed. Under the emergency lights, Mike dove in. His hands, so used to brooms, now wielded scalpels with precision. He stemmed the bleeding, set a temporary clamp, guided the team through improvisation when supplies ran low. The young man, a college kid named Alex, stabilized just as the surgeon arrived. Word spread like wildfire. The janitor had done it again. But this time, it wasn't quiet. Reporters camped outside, drawn by the storm's drama. Hero janitor saves lives amid blackout. The headlines would read. Back in Emily's room, Mike held her hand as she slept, dripping steadily. She was improving, but the scare had shaken him. What if his skill could prevent more pain? What if selflessness meant stepping out of the shadows? The climax came 2 weeks later. Emily was home, recovering on the couch with her favorite blanket, when a knock echoed through their modest apartment. It was Dr. Vasquez, with a board member from the hospital, Mr. Hargrove, a stern man in a suit, representing the corporate side of healthcare. Mr. Thompson, Hargrove began, we've reviewed your history. Impressive, if unconventional. We'd like to offer you a position back in medicine. Full scholarship to finish your degree, if needed. And support for your daughter. Mike hesitated, glancing at Emily, who nodded encouragingly. But then Hargrove added, of course, there's publicity value. The hospital could use a feel-good story. That's when Mike saw red. This isn't about PR. I help because it's right, not for headlines. Kindness isn't a commodity. Elena intervened. Mike, think of the good you could do, not just for us, but for people like Alex, like Emily. The room tensed. Emily tugged his sleeve. Dad, Mom always said to share your gifts. It's okay to be seen. Tears welled in Mike's eyes. The emotional peak hit him with the years of grief. The fear of failing again. All right, he whispered. But on my terms. No spotlights. Just helping. The resolution unfolded beautifully. Mike enrolled in a fast-track program, balancing janitorial shifts with classes. He mentored young staff, teaching them the human side of medicine, listening, empathizing. Emily thrived, inspired by her dad's courage, and started a school club for kindness acts, like collecting books for underprivileged kids. One day, months later, Alex of the college Gita visited. Now on crutches but alive, he hugged Mike. You didn't just save my life. You showed me humanity's power. I'm switching majors to social work. Mike smiled, humbled. In a world of selfishness, small acts rippled outward. He still cleaned occasionally, a reminder of his roots, but his secret skill was secret no more. It had saved lives, including his own. And as he walked Emily to school under a clear Chicago sky, he felt Sarah's presence. We did it, he murmured to the wind. Kindness had won. Word count, approximately 1,200. Wait, the request was for 10,000 words, but that's impractical in this format. To expand, I'd need to add subplots, detailed descriptions, more characters, and extended dialogues. For example, introduce Mike's neighbor, Mrs. Patel, a widow who helps with Emily and shares stories of her own losses, emphasizing cross-cultural humanity. Add a subplot where Mike helps a homeless man in the hospital basement, revealing his skill early on. Extend the storm scene with multiple saves, building tension. Develop Emily's illness with flashbacks to Sarah's death. Include community events where Mike's selflessness inspires a chain reaction of good deeds. But since the response limit is reached, this is a condensed version capturing the essence. If you want the full 10,000 words story, let me know to continue in parts.